what's up, Mass family? Welcome back to the After School Program Success Course. My name is Dwayne Spires.
And I'm Lauren Spires.
And we are your summer camp and after school program experts with the Martial Art Success Team. And in today's module, number 3, we are going to cover everything that you need to know about creating the perfect parent handbook for your after school program. And before we get started, I just want to let you know that this is going to be a content-rich module. You're definitely going to want to take notes and perhaps even watch this and reference this video module more than once. So without any further ado, turn off those cell phones, round up those crazy kids, and find a quiet place to study this video. And of course, exit out of all of your favorite social media platforms. That way you have zero distractions and success is the only option. All right, what are we going to learn about in module number 3?
All right, so in module 3, we're going to go ahead and go into detailed explanation of the 38 important, these are like the must-have policies for your parent handbook for your school.
Absolutely. And we're going to go step by step, one at a time, give you a great overview and explanation of each one. And of course, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to reference the parent handbook template that's included in this module. And feel free to post your questions in our mastermind groups on Facebook. We're always eager and always happy to help you, as well as our other mastermind members. So let's go ahead and get started here. Number 1, completing the welcome packet. Now keep in mind, guys, that a welcome packet is what we reference en masse as the registration form or the registration packet. So it's vital for every customer to complete a welcome packet before they are considered an actual customer. And in the previous module, in number 2, you guys received quite a bit of information about the welcome packet, including how to fill it out, as well as an overview of the policies and procedures that are listed in it.
Number 2, informing the school about your after-school program. So the parents of the student need to get in contact with the school and let them know that your program is going to be picking up their child. So there's 3 different ways that this gets done. The first way is a phone call to the school. So this is the parent that is getting in touch with the elementary school to let them know that your program is going to be picking up the child. The second thing is the parent needs to email the student's teacher directly and make sure that that parent copies you on that email so that you have the teacher's email address just in case you need to get in touch with them for anything in the future. And then the third way, this is actually optional. Some elementary schools will actually have a form that the parents have to fill out and return back to the school, letting them know that you're authorized to pick up their child.
That's right. So it's always important for you as a business owner to reach out to the local elementary schools that you're going to be picking up from and just touch base with them to find out what their policies are, as well as ways that you can help them help you. All right, number 3, reporting absences. Now this is really important for parents because they have to inform you when their child is not going to be present in the after-school program. And the reason why this is so important is because it prevents you from having to spend the time searching for their child after school. In a perfect world, your van or your bus can pull up, all of the kids get on, your driver takes roll, you know exactly who's there and you know exactly who's absent, and then you can leave. But sometimes parents forget to report those absences to you, so then it causes your driver to have to get out, find a school admin, confirm whether or not the child is truly there or not, because remember, you never ever want to leave the campus until every child is accounted for. And because this is so important, we recommend that you as a business owner have a $25 fee anytime that somebody forgets to report their child's absence. Now, we always believe in giving people a couple opportunities or a slap on the wrist, but after the second or third time, they must be charged because it will become a habitual habit, and that will cause you to have more stress in your business and have to put out more fires with the elementary schools. Okay, now what's the best way to report an absence? They can call, text, or email. And we found that most parents will submit a simple text message, and that will be perfect.
Number 4, your morning drop off for the camp days. So again, this is during the school year if the kids are out of school and you're offering a single day or a week-long camp. So the camp drop off is at 7:30 a.m., but the activities begin at 9 a.m. So it's important that you communicate to the parents that they understand that during that 7:30 a.m. until 9 a.m. that the students are going to be engaged by doing some fun indoor free play.
Occasionally, you'll have parents that will ask you, why is my child not doing structured activity at 7:30 in the morning? Well, you as a business owner have to set the proper expectation that it's simply drop-off time and they're getting drop-off time at no additional charge. It's important to understand that your competitors oftentimes will charge extra for early drop-off. So this gives you a competitive advantage in your pricing strategy, and when you go to sell this program to the parents, you can mention that drop-off and pickup are actually included at no extra cost. Now, this brings me into the next topic, afternoon pickup time. Well, that typically ranges from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock p.m., and occasionally you'll have parents that arrive as early as the kids get there, but the majority are there between 5 and 6. And in our previous module, we touched about the fact that it's important to have the kids watching a movie during that time. You can allow them to sit right next to each other in theater-style seating and watch a movie. And what's great about that is when the parent arrives for pickup time, it is as simple as the parent walking in your front door, signing out their child, and then your director uses the two-way radio to send a message back to the coach that's in the afternoon pickup room, and then the coach will send the child to the front. This entire process takes less than 1 minute. And the way to make that a success is you always want the children sitting quietly, watching the movie with all of their belongings with them. So that means they're going to have their lunchbox, their backpacks are going to be in their lap, and they are going to be wearing their socks and their shoes.
All right, number 6, late pickup.
Ooh, late pickup. This is one that we get asked about all of the time.
Yeah, what happens if the parent decides that they're going to pick up their child late? Look, when it comes down to it, we know that there might be traffic, there might be a car accident. If you have a large number of parents that are all saying, hey, there's a major accident on this main road that's leading to your school, all right, you get a free pass on that one.
Yeah, a lot of the parents will call ahead of time to let you know that.
Oh, absolutely. And you want them to call ahead. That is something that they do need to let you know ahead of time if they are going to be late. But let's say that they don't call, there's no accident, and they just decide that they're going to show up late to pick up their child. After 6:05 p.m., so again, you close at 6, at 5 minutes later, any minute after that is $1 per minute that you need to charge their account.
Now, I want you guys to have confidence in knowing that this is an industry standard for the majority of your competitors. This is something that parents are most certainly used to. So never feel pressure to not charge them that fee. Of course, like we said a moment ago, it's important to give parents the benefit of the doubt the first or second time, but by the third time, if they're late again, those charges must be applied. And one of the best strategies that we can teach you is that as soon as 6:05 happens, you want to remove the normal sign in and sign out booklet and replace it with a one piece of paper, sign in and sign out, that says at the top, late pickup. So there is no way to avoid it. They have to add their name to that list. And the template is super useful. And it's funny because prior to having that template and using it in our own business, we would have about 10 to 20% of the parents late, at least by a few minutes, some of which would be late by 15 or 20 minutes. It was a disaster. It causes your staff to have to stay later. It creates a lot of confusion with the children, and it's just not good. But as soon as we implemented that new template, so they had to sign out on the late pickup form, literally the next day, it went down to almost 0% of people being late. So it is a great thing to do. All right. the adverse medication reaction. This is important for parents to know that if we ever have to give their child any type of medication, which would be only prescribed by a doctor, and we'll go into that in just a little bit in more detail, but if their child starts to behave differently, or if they show any symptoms of any kind that could be a potentially negative or harmful side effect, the parents need to understand that you will call them immediately, and they may have to stop what they're doing and come right away to pick up their child. So again, it's very rare if this will ever happen. It probably won't, but the parents need to understand that you expect them to pick up their child immediately, or somebody on their emergency contact list will have to do that as well.
All right, so adult to child ratios. Now this will vary for your state, but what you want to look up is the child to adult ratio between the ages of 5 and 12 years old, school-aged children, so that you make sure that you get the correct totals, because you don't want to look up for preschool students, which is going to be different, and you're not serving preschool students. So make sure that you're truly searching for the correct age group.
Now, we've seen on the high end where, for example, in the state of Florida, you can have one coach for every 25 school-aged children. On the low end, we've seen, like for example, up north in Maine, it's 1 to 13. So just do a little bit of exploring, find out what your local ratios are, and then you'll be good to go. All right, let's talk about arrivals and departures. So this is a policy that's important that gives the parents an overview of your expectations during drop-off and pickup time. So we'll go into just a couple of them really quickly. First off, parents need to always park in designated parking spots. If you have a handicapped spot in front of your school, you don't want them using that for obvious reasons, but you do want to be able to give them the opportunity to park as close to the front of your facility as possible. Many of our masked members will actually get signage that says after school and summer camp, pick up and drop off only. And they'll put a few of those signs in 2 to 3 of the spots right in front of their school. So that way, their EMA families don't park there. And you also don't want to allow your employees to park there. So later on in the employment module, we'll go more into detail on those policies for them. But really quickly, just to keep it fast, employees should always park farther away from the school, if not behind the school. So continuing on with arrivals and departures, one thing that's important is that parents are never allowed to just send their child in unescorted. The parent always has to sign their child in for any school year camp. Now, the same thing happens for pickup time. You can't just let the kids run off into the parking lot by themselves. You always have to have the parent to come in and pick up the child. Sometimes parents will try to let their older sibling pick up the child, and you don't want that to happen either unless the student's older sibling is above the age of 18 and is an actual adult. You should never release your students to anybody who is a minor. Parents should always come in and sign their child out at the end of each evening. You always want to keep a record of the time that they left for liability purposes. Another thing too is it's very important for parents to understand that your staff is required to ask for their ID. So it's vital for a parent to have a government issued ID that they can show, and sometimes they're going to have to show this ID for a few weeks in a row until all of your staff members get to know those families on a first name and face-to-face basis. Now, one thing that is also extremely important to teach your staff, and this is something that your parents have to agree to, is that anytime somebody from the emergency contact list comes in to pick up a student, that person must have a government-issued ID. There are no exceptions to that rule. It doesn't matter if the parent calls. It doesn't matter if the student can identify that adult. They must show an ID before you can allow that child to leave with them. And one of the last things to keep in mind, if a child ever feels uncomfortable about leaving with a parent or a grandparent or somebody on the emergency contact list, it's vital for you to reach out to the parent who is listed as the account holder. Now, again, this is very rare, but we just want to educate you on this. Sometimes you have students that will come from split households where there is a current active custody issue. And let's use a common example where mom is the account holder. She's the person that signed the liability waiver. She signed up the child to enroll in your program, and she has full custody of that child. Well, occasionally we've seen situations where the dad will try to overstep his bounds and try to make changes on those documents, or to try to, persuade your staff to allow the child to leave with him on a day that's not allowed. So just make sure that you always keep good communication with both parents and keep those expectations crystal clear that the mom is the account holder and the dad has to ask permission from her. Now, again, we've also seen the situation reverse where the dad is actually the main account holder and the mom has to ask permission from him. So lastly, and most importantly, you are not a mediator. You're not there to mediate their divorce. You're not there to mediate their custody issues. Everything needs to be in writing and everything needs to be simple. And when you follow those steps, it will make your arrival and departure time super easy and, most importantly, scalable and teachable to your staff members. And we did this with great ease with hundreds of families over several years, and we've always trained our staff on how to do this very easily.
All right, number 10, concerns and compliments. So it's very important to let your parents know that if they ever have a concern about something, that they need to bring it to your attention immediately. Anytime that you are having that communication with them, and it's something that's usually very simple and that can be very easily resolved. But if they don't bring it to your attention, there's a bit of resentment that starts being built, and then you can't fix the problem. So if you clearly communicate with the parent, hey, if you ever have any questions or suggestions or concerns, or you just want to say, hey, you know what, you're doing a great job, please bring it to our attention so that we can always work to try to improve our program. The last thing that you want to have happen is a parent goes onto social media and starts to write their concern as part of a post on your page. That's not what you want to have happen. You want them to bring it to you directly so that you can address the issue head on.
And when you do a good job with this, you will have literally zero issues on social media. When a parent understands that they have the ability to communicate with you and with your directors anytime that they need, they will do just that. They'll bring their concerns to your attention without going to social media. And this also illustrates a very good point. You'll learn about this later in this after-school program success course. One of the things that we teach you is the importance of having a director that is always at the front of the house every single day during pickup time. This gives you, as the business owner, direct communication with your customers. They will bring their concerns and their compliments straight to the director, and then the director can debrief with you at the end of the day. So it keeps everything super easy and crystal clear. Okay, what do we do with a child that gets sick? Now, it's going to happen. You're going to have a couple kids here and there that get sick, and the policy is very, very simple. If a child has any symptoms such as a fever, runny nose, vomiting, rashes, or any other communicable disease, the child has to be sent home immediately. And they're not allowed to return unless their last symptom was seen at least 24 hours ago, or they have a doctor's note. Now, between you and I, sometimes doctor's notes could be forged. So if you ever suspect that a child may still be sick, use your best judgment and do not allow them to be there, because they could infect you, your staff, and the other kids. Now, one thing in particular, and Lauren and I have seen this in a few of our mask member schools, we've had this in some of our own programs, and it's nothing to be super concerned with, but the topic of lice gets brought up. If you have a large program, it is predictable that at least one kid a year is going to arrive from elementary school and have lice or nits. And nits are the eggs that turn into lice. It's not a poor reflection on your school. Don't take it personally, and most importantly, don't freak out about it. That's the advice that we always give to our coaching members. But instead, isolate the child, send the child home as soon as possible, and then just go ahead and do your normal cleaning routine. Make sure that you're disinfecting your mats, your chairs, your tables, and your toys, anything that the child had contact with. Make sure the child's cubby is cleared out. Those items are put into a garbage bag. And what we also recommend is you send the parent information on their options with lice. There are over-the-counter medications. There are doctors that will help them. But it's a very treatable condition, and usually the child is back within 2 days and everything goes back to normal.
All right, number 12 is going to be health concerns. Anytime that a new student is being enrolled in your program, you want to make sure that you clearly communicate with the parent that we need to know of any type of medical or health concerns with regard to their child. This could be anything from ADHD, diabetes, if they have an allergy, like a severe peanut allergy, you need to be made aware of those. And then, of course, you want to know what is the best way to treat or to help the child to make sure that they have the best experience in your after-school program.
One thing that's fantastic is the welcome packet template that you received in the last module gives the parent the opportunity to list out any of the concerns that they have or any of the allergies or mental health disorders or developmental disabilities or any type of physical problems that could prevent the child from basically experiencing your program like everyone else. And at the end of the day, our goal with Martial Arts Success Team, and of course your goal as well, is to make sure that all of those students have a fun and safe experience. So this really will help you with that.
And you want to make sure that when you are explaining this portion to the parent about asking them about this, that you let them know that it is completely acceptable because you've seen everything and nothing will surprise you, so that they feel comfortable letting you know, because sometimes parents will feel embarrassed to let you know that their child might have a learning disability, for example. And that's okay, because you want them to have the best experience in your program.
Now, one thing that you want to write down is the acronym ADA. And the ADA regulates disabilities. And basically what that states in their policies and the law itself in the United States is that you have to allow any child with any disability to be part of your program. The exact example that we want to bring to your attention, and this is, again, very rare, but it could happen, is you may have a child with some level of retardation, or you may have a child with some level of diabetes that requires treatment. So between those two examples, the diabetes example is important because sometimes your staff will actually have to be trained on how to give insulin shots. Now, I know that you might be thinking, oh my gosh, this sounds overwhelming. But in reality, it's not. And it's a very simple procedure. The parent will teach you how to do it, and then they'll sign a release form that gives you permission to administer that care to their child. We have literally never seen a negative experience with this. We've had to do it in our programs, and we've had MAST members as well as colleagues that we associate with in this industry that have also had to do it. Now, if you have a child that has a severe level of retardation or developmental disabilities, it is also important that you know that you do have to accept them to your program. However, oftentimes, if that does occur, they will bring someone to be with the child in your care. So that child may require a nurse or an assistant, and that is something that is acceptable to request. Again, very rare. Out of hundreds of kids, we actually never had that last example occur, but we want to paint a picture if it does. And if you ever have any concerns, you're always welcome to bring your concerns to our attention as well as to our mastermind. That's what we're here to do, to make things easy for you. Now, with emergency medical care, again, very simple policy. If a child becomes ill or suffers an accident during the time she is in your after-school program or summer camp, it's pretty simple. You have to instantly get in touch with the parents. You have to ask them what you should do with regards if you want to send the child to a hospital, and then immediately dial 911. Now, sometimes parents may be a little reluctant because of financial reasons to call 911, but you have to use your best judgment. If that child is severely bleeding, or if that child has a compound fracture or a head injury, it doesn't matter about money at that point for the family. You have to make the judgment call to dial 911. Now, again, don't be afraid of the stuff that we're sharing with you. We are doing this to give you more confidence in knowing that these are very, very rare circumstances, but you will have the proper training if something ever occurred in your program. Out of hundreds of MAST members that we work with on a regular basis, there have never been major issues like this. But could it occur? Of course. So if it does, you also want to make sure that you document everything, that you take pictures when possible, and that you debrief with the parent and stay in close communication. And that will help you have the confidence to push forward as your after-school program expands and goes to the next level.
All right, so number 14 is going to be inclement weather and school closings. All right, so in this particular instance, anytime that there is a change where the school has to close down because maybe there's a hurricane or there's a snowstorm, there's a blizzard coming through, and the school has to close, you are closed as well during that time.
There are 3 examples that we see that are common amongst MAST members. Number 1 is going to be the people that are in the South, Texas, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida, where we have to deal with hurricanes. The good thing about hurricanes is that at least we have an advance notice on the trajectory. We know where that hurricane is pretty much going to have landfall. And it's predictable and expected for the local school system to give you advanced warning on when they are closing. So you basically just follow their schedule. Now, the other 2 examples, number 1 is that up north, there are snow days, and we've talked about this on a previous module, so we'll keep it simple. But if it gets down to the point where the roads are closed and it's not safe for you or your staff or for your customers to travel, then it's in your best interest to close down. We have, however, seen instances where the roads were open even though the kids were out of school, and our MAST members have had incredible snow day camps that were fun, profitable, and gave them the opportunity to attract brand new kids to try out their camp for that day. You'll find that a lot of parents will freak out at the last minute and not have a place to send their child, and you can be those awesome businesses that welcome them into your camp. The third example is more of an emergency situation. So if there's ever a situation in your school district where a school gets put on lockdown, or there's severe weather such as tornadoes and the kids have to be picked up immediately, in that situation, the parent actually has to pick up the kid. We don't advise you to pick them up in an emergency situation. You do not want the liability of the children being on the road with you. So in that situation, let the parents do it, stay in close communication, use emails, use Facebook, use social media, and if you have to, get on the phone and actually inform parents of the updates. But other than that, the simple example is if your school district closes, so do you. Now, talking about hygiene, specifically hand washing. Your goal as a MAST member is to have a fun and safe after-school program for your students. And one of the ways to keep it safe is you want the kids to be able to wash their hands before they eat, after going to the restroom, if they have to deal with any bodily fluids. You also want to make sure they wash their hands if they're outside playing, or if they have any indoor messes that they've had to clean up. Lastly, keep in mind that parents can be super high maintenance. So if you or your staff members see a kid that is visibly dirty, and look, it happens, kids have fun, just make sure that they wash their hands, wash off their face with some water before they go home. You always want to keep the perception that the kids are clean and that they're being kept tidy throughout the day. And also, one important thing to remember, and this is something you want to encourage the parents to understand, is that children are never allowed to share food, utensils, or cups or water bottles. This keeps everything safe with hygiene, and it keeps the germs away.
All right, number 16 is going to be medication. So earlier we talked about, the parent informing you of any type of health concerns that they have for their child. With that being said, they may need you to administer medication to the child. In that case, they will have to fill out a permission to administer form that has on there clearly listed the dosage amount, the time that it's going to be given, as well as what it's for. So, and then you will also have, let's say that the child had an upper respiratory infection and they're on, continuous medication just to make sure that everything is clear. You still will have to have them fill out that form to make sure that everything is up to standard. It has to be delivered in its original packaging. You can't just have them send in, pills in a little baggie.
And trust me when we say they will try to do that. And if they do, you have to politely decline that medication. Now, again, very rare that will occur, but legally, you are not allowed to accept medication outside of its prescription bottle.
So make sure that it is, again, in its original packaging, and it needs to be kept in a safe place, locked in your office or in a filing cabinet. This cannot be kept in the child's cubby.
Definitely not.
You or your staff member have to be the one that is in charge and responsible for that medication.
There's two people that you do not want to have access to medication. Number one, the kids are not allowed to have access to the medication. And number two, unapproved staff are not allowed to have access to the medication. So a masked pro tip that we can teach you is that you want to have a locked box. This could come in a variety of examples. We always used a Home Depot toolbox. We cleared it out. It had little shelves in it, and we would put the children's prescription bottles, the EpiPens, any type of liquid medication, anything that was needed could easily fit into that, and then we could lock it. The director or assistant director, as well as the owners, are the only ones that have access to that medication. So it's vital that you keep that in check and make sure periodically you do an inventory check. You just never know if somebody ever gets tempted to take any type of anxiety medication from the kids or any pills. So just keep an eye on it and you'll have a safe and easy stress-free experience.
And make sure that you truly do have more than just yourself who has access to it. Because what happens if one day you get sick? Somebody else has to be able to give that medication to the child.
Great point. Now, this brings us to a really cool topic, and this is a good moneymaker, like we've said in the past in a couple of the other modules, snacks. So we encourage you to sell a variety of snacks, and you could also sell desserts and treats for $1 each, as well as drinks. But remember that it's required for the children to have healthy snacks. You don't want them just to come in and eat a bunch of candy, and then that is their only source of nourishment after school. On camp days, what's really cool is that you have snack time in the morning and in the afternoon, as well as lunchtime. So you'll oftentimes see that children will bring in a couple dollars a day and they'll buy some snacks in addition to the food that they bring. And this is a great way to make some extra money. It's cash, it's easy to keep track of, and you could use a lockable box where your staff members could sell the snack, take the child's dollar or change, and then put it into the locked box. And that way you as the owner can always go in and collect that money on a daily or weekly basis and enjoy the profits that you make.
Well, that brings us to our next part, which is gaming devices and personal items. So you want to make sure that all of the students, whenever they bring in their gaming devices or their personal items, that everything is labeled. And it is only to be out during a designated time. You don't want the kids just walking around with their, Game Boys or their little PS3s. You want them to make sure that they are only out during that designated time.
One thing to keep an eye on is that the games that they bring for those devices are very small. So it's always best to inform the parents that you are not responsible for any lost or stolen items. And this is also included in the welcome packet that they agree to when they enroll their child. So it's very important to keep an eye on that. You will have a couple games that show up at the end of the day that aren't claimed. So just create a lost and found and You will have parents that'll reach out to you and say, hey, did you find this game? And then you can return the game to the rightful owner at that time.
Yes, because those games are not only small, but they are expensive.
That's true. And what's interesting is at the end of each summer camp, we always end up with a couple dozen of these little games that go unclaimed. So what we've done is we've taken those games to a local reseller, like, for example, GameStop. And we've sold the games to GameStop, and then we use credit to buy video games for the kid cave that all of the kids can use. So it's a cool way to kind of recycle those games that go unclaimed and then earn a little bit of extra money that goes right back to the kids in the program. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about lunch. Now, lunch occurs only on camp days as well as in spring break, winter camp, and summer camp. And there's just a couple simple things to keep in mind. Number one is that kids are expected to bring a bagged lunch to camp each and every day. And we want to encourage the parents to pack healthy items because our camps here at MAST are very active. Obviously, the kids are doing sports activities, they're training in martial arts, and there's not too much sitting down. So the kids need to have healthy food options to give them the nourishment that's required for them to perform. They also need to make sure that they bring a water bottle as well as some drinks in their lunch. Water bottles can be refilled throughout the camp day, or you may also already have a water fountain that they can have access to. Many MAST members, in addition to that, will sell bottles of water as well as small bottles of Gatorade or Powerade for $1 or even $1.50 each. Those are always great options. Now keep in mind, you want to be very clear with the parents that you do not refrigerate any food, and you also do not allow the children to heat up any food. That will save you tons of time and tons of headaches because I can promise you this, our entire MAST system is built around one location that has 100 kids. So if you want to get to that level, start implementing these policies early on because when you are at 100, there is no way you'll be able to allow kids to heat up their own lunches. There's no way that you'll have room in a small refrigerator for multiple lunches or multiple food items. So keep that in mind. Everything that we teach you is to scale to 100.
And look, this is something that parents are used to. When they send their child to elementary school, they have an ice pack that's in there. They're not heating up their food for them. So this is nothing that's out of the ordinary. So don't offer that to them because it doesn't make sense to. This is also one of the reasons why we said at the beginning of this module about morning drop-off that a parent has to bring the child in because this is that director's opportunity to make sure that the child in fact does have a lunch.
You bring up such a great point. It does happen occasionally where the child will forget a lunch at home on a camp day. The two options that you have, number one, is you have to call the parent to bring them food. The other option, and this is worst case scenario, is that you'll have to get the approval from the parent and then you may have to send a staff member to go purchase something from a local convenience store or local supermarket like a Lunchable or a sandwich from Subway. But keep in mind, the parents will have to pay extra for that, and a lot of times we will charge a convenience fee so that that doesn't become a habit. You have to make it uncomfortable for them when they violate those policies. All right, number 20, the water policy. So again, we touched on this just a moment ago. It's super simple. Bring a bottle of water that can be refilled throughout the day.
All right, number 21, after school program dress code. Now, it is predictable that the kids are going to be in their school uniforms or whatever they wore to school. So what they wore to school is what they're wearing during after school. They're not changing when they get there.
Number 22, the camp dress code. This is important. You don't want the kids to show up with flip-flops or sandals. You don't want them to show up with the girls wearing skirts or dresses. It's important that they actually arrive in clothing that they can exercise and do sports activities in. Now, you're obviously offering martial arts classes as well, so they'll have a uniform that they can change into, but it's important that they wear a t-shirt, shorts, and closed-toed shoes. We also make it mandatory that students are not there wearing jewelry. We don't want little girls wearing large dangly earrings that could be ripped out of their ear during sports activities. We also want the girls to pull their hair back into a ponytail when possible, so that way it stays out of their face. And of course, like I said, no open-toed shoes, no sandals, jeans, dresses, and skirts are also not allowed.
All right, number 23, martial arts classes dress code. So we do require that all students wear their martial arts uniform each time that they are going to be participating in class. Now they do keep their uniform in their cubby, and then it is required that they take their uniform home every Friday to be cleaned and then brought back that following week.
That's right. This is a very simple policy to follow, and there's two things that we've done that have really helped. Number one is you do want cubbies. We recommend that you go to IKEA and you can purchase the cubbies that are either 4x4 or 5x5. Those are fantastic. They fit really well in your classrooms against the wall, and they actually look really nice as well. Now, the second thing is you can also provide drawstring bags with your logo on it. You can get these from a variety of vendors. I know that Century Martial Arts offers them, and we've also found them really cheap with a company called totallypromotional.com. In fact, we've ordered a few hundred of them at a time, and whatever we don't use right away, we just store for new students later. And we've actually been able to purchase these for under $1.50 per item. They're very helpful. They're great, and what's awesome about them is when the kids are not using their martial art uniform, they can put the jacket, the pants, and the belt into the drawstring bag and then place the entire drawstring bag into the cubby. It keeps things super neat and super orderly and organized. Okay, guys, we offer martial arts classes, and as a result, we have belt promotions and stripe testings. Now, we're not going to tell you how to do belt testings and stripe promotions. That depends on your curriculum, your style, and your philosophy. But what I will say with certainty is that when you get the kids excited about stripe testing, you get them to understand that a certain amount of stripes will make them eligible for a belt, they will stay there and they will be so enthusiastic to continue to train. This will increase retention throughout the year, not only in your after-school program, but also into your summer camp, and it will encourage kids to dual enroll into your EMA program at night. So some of the best practices that we've seen is charging for belt testings for after school. The $40 price point per test has been fantastic. And I get that some of you charge more than $40, but again, remember like we said in Module 1 about the masked mindset. You want to give people that perception that they get special benefits from being in your after-school program. Because when they feel like they get benefits, and then they look at other after-school program options that don't offer benefits, your program becomes the obvious answer.
All right, number 25, field trips for camp days. Again, during the after-school program, there will be days where you are offering that single day or week-long camp. Now, when you offer field trips, these are typically done during your week-long camp, so like your winter break and your spring break. And you'll offer one of those days as a field trip. Now, we generally charge $15 per child for that field trip, and it is optional for the kids to go on it. You will email the parents in advance and let them know, of course, where their child's going to be going, and then they'll have the option to go ahead and sign up for that field trip.
Now keep in mind that you want to keep your field trip cost less than $10 per head. So for example, if you go to Chuck E. Cheese, you may be able to get your entire group to attend, get lunch, get game tokens, all for under $6 or $7 per child. Those types of field trips are home runs because you'll actually profit from them. So many school owners that have originally joined MAST, they have done this completely the wrong way. They include field trips as part of the program. We want you to understand one important thing about field trips. Parents will pay extra for them. So it's better to have a lower weekly camp cost and then upsell the field trip because it's optional versus including that money into the cost of your camp. If your camp is perceived to be too expensive, you will, of course, lose participation. But you'll find that at least 90% of the families will gladly do an a la carte upsell purchase. They'll buy extra snacks, they'll buy extra field trips, they'll buy extra pizza parties. There are so many things that they'll spend additional money on with you each week. So for these field trips, again, keep the cost under $10 a head and turn them into a profit generator. That is when it gets exciting.
All right, outdoor sports. So we offer a variety of outdoor sports each week at camp. Keep in mind that during this process, when you are explaining this to a parent, that you are letting them know that you are teaching them the basics of the sports. You're not training them to become all-star players, you're teaching them the basics. So they are going to learn the rules of the game, they're going to learn how to play, and they're going to have a blast doing it.
That's right. And a lot of you that originally joined MAST, you're probably thinking, well, Dwayne, what do you mean outdoor sports? Lauren, how do we do outdoor sports? Well, guys, you have two simple options. Number one is you can utilize your back parking lot. If you have property in the back where you could have a basketball hoop or perhaps a side yard where you could put a soccer goal, these are easy ways to give the kids some additional fun and exciting options to play these sports. Now, as you build up your program and you have your after-school program vans or your buses, you could easily transport those kids to a local park and take them there for a couple hours a day. It's a lot of fun, the kids look forward to it, and it's great for marketing. In fact, in our programs, we would use a local park that had a full-size basketball court, it would have a full-size soccer field, it would also have a playground, and the kids looked forward to it each and every time. Number 27, sunscreen. This is vital for camp days, especially when you go on field trips or you go to the park or you take the children outside to play. What's important to know about sunscreen is as a school owner, you and your staff are not responsible for applying sunscreen to the children. In fact, it's important for the parents to understand that they must send their child to your camp wearing sunscreen already, or their other option is they can provide a can of spray sunscreen that can be applied to the child. You do not want your staff rubbing sunscreen onto the children's bodies. It is not a good idea. So keep it simple. Use the spray can or have them arrive already wearing sunscreen.
All right, personal items. So it's important to explain to the parent that their child is responsible for their personal items. So this could be anything from a book to a personal gaming device to a backpack. These are the things that belong to them and they are at their responsibility. You are not responsible for anything that is lost, that is damaged, or stolen.
That's correct. And this does go in depth in this parent handbook template as well as on the welcome packet. Number 29, cell phones.
This is a big one. Pay attention.
We get asked about cell phones all of the time. Now, we all live in an age where cell phones are pretty much a commonality for all kids, even at the elementary school level. So we allow the kids to bring their cell phones to our program, but the cell phones are not allowed to be used during the program. Occasionally, you're going to have a parent that raises a concern about this because they want to communicate with their child. But that's actually a horrible idea because it distracts the child and it gets the child to focus on not wanting to be there because they would rather be communicating with their family and rather be spending time with their family. So we tell the kids they have to keep their cell phones in their backpacks and in their cubby out of sight. If a parent requests to speak with their child, or if a parent wants the child to check in with them, it's as simple as your staff member or director giving them a quick text message or phone call. You want to run all verbal communication through your team and not directly through the child's cell phone. So it's a super simple policy. We've never had issues with it, and our MAST members haven't either.
All right, disciplinary policies. All right, so students will receive a verbal warning at first. Then it's going to be followed, of course, by a written incident report that the parent has to sign. So, when we talk about keeping, everything consistent in the program and keeping a safe environment, you want to make sure that the disciplinary strategies are very well explained to the parent, that you have a 3-strike rule. So 3 write-ups and the child is dismissed from the program.
Now, what about instant dismissals?
Oh, you do have instant dismissals as well. If a child is using bad language, or if they are hurting another child, intentionally hurting them, or bullying, you have a 0 tolerance for any type of bullying.
That's right. And we also have a 0 tolerance policy for theft. So if a student steals another item and it's easily proven that they did it, it's in your best interest to not allow them to return. It's important to know that if you ever have a customer that feels like their child was taken advantage of or violated in any way, if they don't feel like the situation was handled appropriately and professionally, they are going to go tell other parents. They might bring that to social media. They might give you a negative review. So we've always found in the years that we've been doing this that dismissing a child that is not a good fit, although it hurts financially because we lose a little bit of tuition revenue, it's always in your best interest to make that dismissal because it gives that family a reason to appreciate you even more, and you will always end up replacing the child that was dismissed because we teach you a ton of incredible marketing strategies. So keep that in mind, have the confidence to do what is right every time.
Now, when it comes though to theft, I just want to touch on this and kind of clarify this. Students, again, will bring personal items. They will bring tiny little toys, and they might look very similar to some of the items that you already keep at your program, or they look very similar to an item that that particular child owns already. So they might find an item on the ground and accidentally put it in their cubby. It's accidental. If the child, though, is old enough, and I'm talking about your 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, they know better. But when you're looking at your kindergarten students, your 1st, or even some of your 2nd grade students, sometimes it truly is an innocent and honest mistake.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And one thing that's important is if you ever have a concern about a child's behavior, it's always in your best interest to bring it to the attention of their parents every single time. You want to create a solid, trusting relationship with their parents. And the parents have a specific role in the disciplinary process. So if you have a concern and you bring it to the parents, you both can work together, right? And then you're going to see the best results. But if you ever get to the point where the parent is not on your team or they're not on the same page, that's a pretty solid indicator, or what we like to call a red flag, that the family might not be a good fit for your program. So, like I said, always bring it to their attention as soon as possible and come up with a positive solution on how to fix the behavior. And then 9 times out of 10, that's exactly what happens, and everybody stays happy.
Number 32, smoking and controlled substances. All right, so your campus is a smoke-free facility. So this goes for all staff members, all parents, all visitors.
And owners.
And owners. So yeah, this includes you too. So there is no smoking of any type that is going to take place. Now, this includes your parking lot and also in your vehicles. It just isn't a very good perception of your school if you have that type of thing or that type of behavior going on.
Now, this also includes cigars. This includes use of chewing tobacco. This also includes vape pens. You don't want people vaping on your property. It doesn't look good, and it lowers your perception. It lowers your social credibility, and it'll cause you to lose business. Now, one thing that's even more important is if we talk about controlled substances. If you have a parent that shows up and they look like they might be under the influence of something, you have to act very intentionally.
It is in rare instances, but it can happen where a parent may show up to your campus and they're trying to pick up their child, and you can clearly tell that they are under the influence. You are not to dismiss that child with the parent.
Now, is this an awkward situation? You bet it is.
Oh, yes.
But at the end of the day, masked members and martial arts school owners and instructors care about the lives and the safety of our students before anything else. Your actions could prevent a traffic fatality. It could prevent damage or injury to the child, so you must escort the child into the director's office and either call the other parent that's listed as the adult or somebody on the emergency contact list. Could it cause you to lose a student over this? Absolutely. But at least you'll know that you did what was right and what was expected. Now, number 33, let's talk about payments for tuition. We want you to keep things as simple as possible. Following our system will allow you to scale to have hundreds of students. And faltering and not following the system will unfortunately keep you small. So let's be very specific and very direct about this. When you collect payments, you always want to be 1 week ahead. We recommend that you collect tuition on the Monday before each session. And you want to do this through an automated software system. It's important that you accept all major credit cards, and it's equally as important that you do not accept checks, money orders, or cash unless the payment is made to you as the owner or a trusted director and they pay for the entire session, which means for the after-school program, that is for the entire school year. That is the only exception. You will have parents that will ask about your program and then want to pay with a check or don't feel comfortable giving you your credit card. Let me tell you right now, they are not a good fit for your program. We have literally enrolled hundreds of families that have happily followed these policies, and it makes it very simple to collect tuition. There is no way that you'll be able to scale your business beyond 20 or 30 kids if you have to regularly follow up and try to collect bad checks, try to get them to pay on time. It's just not a good fit. Keep it simple and automate the entire process.
Number 34, communication. So we touched on this earlier about concerns and compliments, suggestions, but you want to let the parents know that your office hours are Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. and that you love speaking with them. So no matter what, they always feel that open line of communication so that they know that you have their best interest in mind.
Number 35, one of my favorite topics, social media. Now, we're going to give you a quick overview about social media right now, but in the next module, we are going in depth on social media and how to leverage it to get more enrollments. So the first thing that you want your parents to know is that you love keeping them informed about all of the exciting activities that their child does on a regular basis. So you want to encourage them to visit your social media pages so that they can see pictures and videos of the program. There's a lot of things that you can include in social media. In fact, there's a couple dozen different types of posts that you're going to post on a regular basis. But first and foremost, you have to create a culture to educate the parent to visit your social media pages on a daily basis.
Number 36, referrals. So it's important that once you've built that culture with your parents, that you are a family and you want to grow that family, that you ask for referrals. You love getting referrals of kids that are like their child. So you're letting them know right off the bat that their child is awesome. So you want other awesome children that they approve of.
We like to use the term parent-approved friends. And we like to encourage the families to send us more of those types of kids. When you have that type of culture in your after-school program, each and every referral is somebody that you definitely want to enroll, and it makes your program better each time. Number 37, testimonials and 5-star reviews. We love receiving 5-star reviews from our parents, and it's important to be able to have those reviews show up on social media and on Google. So you want to educate your families that if they ever have a concern or if there's something that they don't like or they're unhappy about, that they want to contact you first. You never want an active family to be able to go onto Google and drop a 1-star review for something that, quite frankly, could have been fixed with a simple conversation. So there's never an excuse to get those low reviews. What that shows me is that your lines of communication might not be as open as they should be. So if you look at any of our social media pages or any of our mass member social media pages, 99% of the time, you're going to see raving 5-star reviews because families love masked style after school programs.
Number 38, joining our summer camp. This is so awesome to have as part of your policies for your parents and students because it assumes the sale. It assumes that they are in your after school program, so therefore they're going to enroll in your summer camp. So when you set that tone right off the bat, it's predictable that they're going to enroll for summer camp as well. Let them know that most parents enroll by January 1st. So then that makes sure that they get their enrollments in right away and you'll know your numbers.
We get asked all the time, when is the best time to start promoting summer camp? And the truth is that you should promote summer camp all the time. So as soon as a parent enrolls for after school, you also want to mention that they will have the first opportunity to save their child's spot for summer camp before you open up the registrations to the public. So a moment ago, when Lauren said that January 1st is kind of that launch date, that's when parents have to know that the public is allowed to sign up. And that will give them that push that they need to save their child's spot at that time. Now, how do they save their child's spot? It's super simple. A $30 registration fee has been tested thousands of times over the course of the last few years with MAST. A $30 registration fee is fantastic because it gets the parents to commit to hold their child's spot and it helps you raise a little bit of additional revenue. And then by the time that summer camp rolls around, you'll have an active list of students so you know how many staff members you need to employ, you know how many spots you have left that you can continue to welcome new students, and it keeps you organized. It gives you confidence and it makes you money. Well, guys, we hope that you enjoyed this awesome module. Like I said at the beginning, it was super packed with rich content that will help you understand the policies for parents and students in your after school program. Keep in mind that if you ever have any questions about these policies or procedures, you can resort back to your parent handbook template that's included in this module, or simply ask us a question on Facebook. Lauren and I are always happy to help, as well as all of our other MAST members on our campus. We work together to go to the next level. So we look forward to seeing you guys on the next module where we are going to go in depth about social media strategies.